Welcome to another interesting episode of Morning Ride. Thank you for joining us. My name is Jennifer Igwe. I have with me in the studio today a legal aid service provider, and he's no other than Promise Asikpo. He has been on this program before. Welcome to Morning Ride.
Good morning. Thank you.
I just hate that word, contract staff. I don't even know where it started from, who brought the idea, where did it even start from?
The concept, the contract staff concept, has always been in existence. I think it's obtainable in America, in some other jurisdictions, but not in the context in which it is practiced here in Nigeria. And there's been the current upsurge and proliferation of the contract staff project, as I would call, in a lot of companies, has been the device of the management of these companies to boycott some things, maybe like payment of benefit, or to make generate more income for the company, by paying less to the staff. So a lot of reasons which we'll get to that. But basically, it is very, very important that we address this issue, because as it is, employment is central to the socio-economic development of any country. And on that basis, even the Constitution of Nigeria has made provisions under Section 17(3) that this shall be the responsibility of the state to make sure that every Nigerian citizen is not on no condition be discriminated upon or be placed on any disadvantage, so that everybody can secure suitable employment. So going back strictly to the issue of a contract staff, is actually as a definition, is actually a category of staff who are on temporary basis, based on their employed on temporary basis, based on the availability of specified jobs, and they are laid off after the execution of such jobs, or they may be called back where other jobs exist for them.
And I think the way it is practiced in Nigeria, maybe it works in other parts of the world, because I've seen in places where if you want to apply for a job and they tell you is on contract, and which can be renewed. But the way the concept is working in Nigeria has spoiled the whole. Maybe if the contractual arrangement would have been beneficial for both parties, but in Nigeria the way it is, I think it's one-sided, and so that's why a lot of people don't like that idea of contract staff. But what can be done to ensure that if, for instance, there are people who are already working in organizations as contract staff, what can be done to ensure that one day they are not sent away without any benefits, without any retirement bonus or benefits at the end of the day?
That's why we are calling in for regulations and guidelines from the government, from the federal government to start with. That will be under the authorities of the Ministry of Labor and Productivity. I know there are some steps already taken in this maritime sector and the oil and gas sector, but we really want a straight and a focused action on this. There is provision for conversion. If you work as a contract staff in a company for a period of time, some companies may say 2 years or 3 years, then they'll also evaluate your performance, and your output, then you'll be eligible for conversions. But in reality, most of these things are not observed, and so they comply in default. So the main thing is very necessary that we distinguish the things that the concept of contract staff in other jurisdictions and in Nigeria from that obtainable in Nigeria. Basically, that contract staff arrangement in most jurisdictions are based on equal bargaining powers between the company, as the employer, and the applicant, that's the prospective employee. They have a specific job description, and it says, I'm going to offer my services to achieve this project in 2 years. After 2 years, I can now leave. So they relate as independent beings. So, but whereas in Nigeria, what we have is contract of adherence. Is the company that stipulate all the terms. So as an applicant with the current situation of unemployment in Nigeria, there are millions of Nigerians who don't even have a job.
I think some organizations take advantage
of that,
of the fact that we don't have so many job opportunities, and because a lot of people are desperate to get something to do, so they take advantage of it.
So you just find out that Nigerians apply for such roles as contract staff, but eventually they perform the responsibilities that are supposed to be performed by permanent staff, okay, such that at the end of the day, the income, that's the take home pay, the salary that accrues to the contract staff, is not commensurate to the output, the performance that he has put in place. So that is the way the injustice is, okay, and that is what we are frowning against, and we should no longer treat these issues with levity as it's currently done in Nigeria. There are a lot of companies, even having the banks, the oil sector, and a lot of other sectors in the country, and it is a constitutional provision for that, and we need to observe that.
And I think the expatriates I think they do this more than any other organization in Nigeria, because there are times, especially those in the manufacturing sector, there are times when people sustain injuries and they give them very minimal treatments and say because they are contract staff they cannot enjoy medical benefits above a certain level, and so they leave them and throw them out to the streets when they have injuries they sustained in the course of production.
Occupational health hazards.
Yes, and nothing is done. The case just ends there. So I'm just wondering, legally, if for instance there are people in that predicament now, can they have? Isn't there a way they can? Have
legal redress? Well, they have legal redress. You know, before the law reforms, the current alteration of the third alteration of the Constitution, the labor laws in Nigeria were not that effective. Okay, but with the alteration, they now have a court, the National Industrial Court, okay, as a superior court of records, and certain jurisdiction has been expanded. Okay, they now have jurisdiction over issues on health hazards, employment, labor, and other related matters connected thereto. So what we now have is that when such situation occur, okay, you can seek legal redress by taking your legal action in court. Okay, so currently the National Industrial Court, must really appreciate the legislative and the executive arm of the government who made these things possible, and the judiciary, because currently if such matters get to court, the National Industrial Court is not just going to apply the local laws in Nigeria, they can also import the international regulations, okay, conventions, which has made extensive provisions on the criteria for affection of this health hazards, okay, to see in terms of compensations and everything. And let me address that those issues are clearly unfair labor practice, okay, and it has been frowned against by the judges of the court, okay. And when such gets to the court, definitely I'm very certain that if the claimant is able to plead his case properly, he's going to get redress and fair compensation adequately.
You know, you just said plead his case properly. And I'm just wondering, suppose he doesn't plead it well, because he still goes home with either one hand or one leg off.
You know, it's very simple. The lawyer is the duty of the lawyers, okay? It's their responsibility to ensure that we do this. Like in the case of Mr. Courts and Severanson and the experts Emerging Market Service Limited, the courts has extensively made good rulings to that effect, and uphold the rights of the claimants where an unfair labor practice was the position.
Okay, we'll take a short musical break, commercial break, sorry, and when we return, we'll continue this interesting interview. This is still Morning Ride, and before we took that commercial break, we were talking about the contract staff concept in Nigeria. And so Asikpo, you were saying about how we can get legal redress, and how if it works out right for the claimant, he can eventually
It can get fair compensation.
Fair compensation.
But even where there was dismissal.
Fair compensation. But we know it doesn't really work out that way, because not everybody can afford a lawyer. I'm wondering, isn't there a provision in the Constitution that can make it possible, even if you don't go to court, because you worked in that organization as a contract staff? Isn't there a way they can be mandated to take care of that person who had the health hazard while working there?
There are some provisions of the law, and also, we are other trade unions. Okay, some of these contracts, though in Nigeria most companies don't allow their contract staff to belong to trade unions, which is against the constitution. Okay, but in some cases, some trade unions could actually intervene, okay, to ensure that they advocate for the rights of these contract staff. There have been a lot of cases where they took such matters to the International Industrial Arbitration Panel, that's the IAP, the panel that is created by the Ministry of Labour and Productivity. So that's an arbitral body, and they can actually step in to ensure that the rights of the workers are fairly protected without necessarily going to court unless the arbitration fails. Okay, then in terms of redress, I would like to put it clear that in some cases there are some agreements, some companies maybe out of their ambitious position, they could enter into a contract with an employee thinking it's fairly a contract staff and they can terminate the employment at any time. But if you have a lawyer that is very diligent, okay, handling such matter, it can read it between the line and importing the law, the provisions of the laws and the concept, the international concept into it. And when such matter gets into court, like as we have now in Nigeria, in some cases it may even get the employee may be reinstated where the dismissal was unfair. Okay, so there are ways to get these things done. Okay, as lawyers, as a team, we have a lot of organizations like Center for Labor Justice who have gotten successful rulings in the determination in these matters while defending the rights of persons in this case.
Okay, thank you for coming to Morning Rights to educate us about this topic, which I think is important, and I hope we get more success stories from the cases and people get compensated for working as contract staff in organizations where they're not well provided for and taken care of.
We need to also add that government should also take very conscious steps to ensure that you have a structured guidelines, okay? You have strict guidelines and laws that will bring an end to this, so that in only clear cases the companies can also get, in specific cases, they can also apply for waiver, okay, where it is utterly necessary for them to employ the staff on contract basis. But generally, the issue of contract staff should no longer be applicable.
I support you with that. I support that. Thank you very much for coming to Morning Right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll take a break, and when we return, we'll be meeting our last guest today.